We ran Facebook ads back in the day and we got a lot of garbage.
Yeah,
and one of our things is get the garbage off your list. Don't participate in the joint ventures because you're going to get a lot of garbage on your list. So everything we do is very personalized.
So you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Catani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcatani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and I'm joined today by Juliet Clark. Juliet Clark is a 7-time best-selling author, speaker, and podcaster who has spent the last 20 years helping authors, coaches, speakers, and small businesses all over the world build expert audiences. Her company, Superbrand Publishing, is a hybrid publishing company that works with expert authors to build multi-platform release strategies and bestseller marketing campaigns that connect the book to the author's business. She started out as a best-selling mystery novelist and is best known for her books Gypsy, Granny Heist, and Dead by Dawn. Her 2019 book, Pitch Slap, is a roadmap to building personal relationships over impersonal digital clicks to build revenue. At age 46, she received a black belt in Taekwondo and is an avid hiker and golfer. Juliet, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jonny.
Absolutely. Very excited for today's conversation. We pretty much had a whole podcast conversation offline, finally decided to press record. So here we are. Turns out she knows my aunt and uncle, which is hilarious, and lives like 10 minutes away. And we had no idea. So, but let's kind of jump to the beginning. You've done a lot, which is amazing. Take us back kind of where you started and what's led you to where you're at now.
So I've sort of come full circle. Right out of college, I started out in publishing and worked for Price Stern Sloan and HP Books. Price Stern Sloan, for those of you of a particular age, probably remember Mad Libs. So that was there. Yeah, that's what they did. From there, I went over to advertising and I was at Chiat Day on $1 billion account, the Nissan account, and all over the US, got to travel and work and serve the Nissan people. And then I moved over to Mattel Toys. And from there, I got into real estate in, I think, 2001. And I did that until about 2012. I was very successful, one of the top producers in a company of about 400 agents. So I did really well with it. But during the downturn, it really became soul sucking for me because I worked for the banks. And in 2007, I got a divorce and all of a sudden I had a lot of free time on my hands. So I wrote my first mystery novel and my divorce was going so badly that I killed my ex-husband in it. It was super cathartic, kept me out of an orange jumpsuit. So all was good, but it also brought me full circle back into publishing because I realized when I self-published that there was a very bad business model out there that didn't really serve the authors. So as I wrote my books that were follow-up books, I was building my own self-publishing company where we took a lot of those things out and really served the author. So I think by Granny Heist, I'd sold about 25,000 copies of some relatively bad mystery novels. So that's where we are today.
I love it. That's so awesome. What a great, like I was saying before, like you said, very cathartic to, stay out of the orange jumpsuit, but still kind of fulfill that little thing I think that's in the back of all of our minds when someone does us wrong, so to speak. But you chose the right path. So this is a PSA out there, guys. Just do it in writing. All right.
Exactly.
No matter how much someone upsets you.
And don't send it to them because you don't want a restraining order.
I love it. That's so awesome. So what did you identify in publishing that you've kind of fulfilled now?
So one of the things I noticed right off, coming from traditional publishing into self-publishing, which was relatively new back then, was there was this model that there was no training for the author, no meaningful author platform building. And we've morphed into a business that works with a lot of entrepreneurs. So we really stress that book is a nurture tool. And in order to sell those books and bring people into bigger products and services, you need to have that audience built. So how we can bring together your brand and social media and list building and, media, do you have power partners? How can we bring that all into the book launch to maximize the number of books you sell? The one thing about this that I'm very transparent about is you probably will not make back the money on your book that you spent for the publishing package. It's how you use it that you will make that money back and get your ROI. So that was the first thing. The second thing was you were paying to have your book produced, and yet the publisher was taking part of the back end profits. So part of your royalties. So just imagine if you went to Kinko's, I think it's out of business, Office Depot, and you said, design me a business card, please. And so they charge you $75 for the design. And then you say, have 100 printed. And you go in to pick up that 100 business cards. And then they say, oh, by the way, we're going to take 50% of everything you make from the business you get from that business card.
Jeez.
And that's basically what a lot of these self-publishing companies were doing. They would have clauses in their contracts that say, if you negotiate a movie deal, we get 50%. If we're going to get 50% of your royalties. So however many books you sell, we get 50%. I've even seen contracts that say, that online digital business, we get 30% of that. So we really flipped everything and provide that author education, that platform building, helping them do that. And then we don't take any of the back end profits at all.
Wow, that's incredible. I had no idea. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And that's very, even in the record companies, that explains why there's this huge movement of going independent from music and books and everything, because they sounds like taking pretty much everything.
Oh yeah. The recording. Absolutely. A lot of people have gone independent.
Wow. That's fascinating. Okay. And so what does it look like? Obviously you guys are so much more than just, hey, write your book and we'll get it published. So what does it look like in terms of building, kind of this foundation and this infrastructure in order to really, create a brand and continue bringing people, to your brand?
So first of all, you have to start a year or two out. You just can't wake up one day. I know there are a lot of raw entrepreneur groups out there that'll, you need a book in order to be a speaker, in order to, and you have all this coaching money out and no ROI because you need a book, you need a course, you need to be a speaker. There's all these things they tell you need. What you really need to do from day one is establish the brand. Who are you? How do you show up? Are you authentic? Are you copying someone else? And people automatically detect that. So getting that brand really solid. Who are you? What are you all about? What are your values? And really building that archetype of your ideal client. My first year in business, I had a caricature that, when you go to the boardwalk in Venice and they do that drawing, her name was Kathy. And I had her demographic, I had her psychographics. It was all right there. And one thing a lot of entrepreneurs do is they really shy away from sales because they're not confident. I use that avatar as I was talking to people and saying, you know what, this person isn't right for us. We're not going to take them. But it was really me going through, having that avatar there and ticking through, is this person right for me? So building that brand, getting that ideal client and validating that's who it is and not wasting time, not validating. Getting that content built for you. This is your podcast. This is your content. You have to have it. And authors rarely, they will give me so many excuses why they can't do it, but it is the trust builder. Once you have that brand there, it's really walking the walk of who you said you were in your brand. And then taking that content on social media, using it to build your list, finding those people who will be those partners to promote you and help you. And then getting yourself out there on media. A lot of us, don't want to spend the money. We actually have a media consultant who gets our clients on TV, on radio, on podcasts. And yes, she's expensive, but they're not out pumping their book. We have someone in pre-sale, Leslie Michaels, On the Shoulders of Mighty Women. She's been out for months talking about women's issues on TV, and she's the upcoming author of, but she's talking about Roe v. Wade. She's talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and, what Amber Heard did to the Me Too movement. So just getting out there and talking in those areas of your expertise and getting your face known. And then the book follows because they're talking about that book is coming out July 26th. So it takes time to bring that all together. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's really, and then followed by what are your next steps after the book? Because those next steps are what's going to make you monetize you in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be very overwhelming. I'm sure people, get very overwhelmed and are, have no idea where to start, which is where you obviously come in, right? Like that is one thing that's very difficult as an entrepreneur is, you're like, cool, I want to do it. But then you see what actually has to go into it. And it can be challenging, which is why coaching and mentors are, I talk about it all the time, why it's necessary. I mean, that's subjective, but to me, it's very necessary because, they point you in the right direction and help kind of mitigate some of the risks that come along with it. So, how do you help people not be so overwhelmed by that process? Because, you wake up one morning, you're like, cool, I want to write a book. And then we go talk to you and it's like, holy cow, this is not just a book. I'm creating a whole brand and a whole business, so what does that look like in helping people kind of understand that it takes work, but it's not, not something you can't do.
Yeah, there are a lot of tears.
I know. I can attest firsthand to that.
Yeah, we're all about action here. That's why we really encourage people to start far in advance of the book. We talk to a lot of book development companies. We'll go and we'll do presentations. And it's always very interesting to watch so many people, their eyes glaze over. They're like, I haven't done any of this and my book is ready. And, so it really is overwhelming. And the thing is at that point, they're willing to say, okay, well, I don't have time to do it. I don't want to hold the book back. But if you're someone who's out there to really impact the field you're in, it doesn't serve you if you don't sell books. And the average indie author sells less than 100 books.
Oh, wow.
So, from that statistic, that's not what you want to do. You really want to be able to build all this. The other thing that really gets them is, they all are really hyped up on digital and really being able to sell those next steps, those higher ticket sales that you have is you're not going to sell them with a click. So you have to be able to find that balance of the click to bring them in and then building personal relationships. And that's a lot what Pitch Slapped was about, is you're never going to sell a $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 program with a click. It requires you actually getting to know that person, building a relationship, understanding if they're right for you and if you're right for them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's much like the capital raising process as well. Know, like, and trust. And so what it sounds like then is primarily what a lot of your publishing is, and this might be too like self-help, right? So basically a book that's leading to a course, or the book almost acts as like a lead magnet, so to speak, right? Like they read the book, realize they like you as an author, then go to your website, and then that's when they're in your funnel and that whole post process starts. Is that?
Yes and no. So
okay.
They actually need that lead magnet way before that. And your lead magnet should never be a chapter of your book. But like that is a big no-no. It has to be something that really brings value, because you're building that audience to buy your book and then move on to the next. So when we talk about that trust factor of the book, like there are probably 100 people who, more than that do what you do, Jonny. But at the end of the day, they want to know that you have the same business philosophy, that you resonate with them, that they like your personality. I can't imagine anybody coming to work with me who needs constant nurturing. I mean, I do nurture, but we are also moving along in action. So most people that hire me are action people. Like I tell them, we've got a schedule. This is what we're looking for to get it done. So it's that finding out who you are as an individual, and are you the right person for them to take this journey with?
Wow, that's awesome. I love that so much. And so, so it sounds like the book's kind of the middle process then. The beginning is really that whole, kind of building that foundation. Like you said, getting your list. You guys do like Dream 100. Are you familiar with the Dream 100?
What that is.
Where you basically find 100 people who serve your ideal, like how you mentioned earlier, you have the caricature, basically like your avatar, right? Which is basically your dream client, whatever that looks like. So the Dream 100 is basically 100 people who serve your dream client already, who are either doing what you're doing or somehow in front of already your dream client. It's a Russell Brunson thing, if you know who Russell Brunson is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have this whole process, and then you finally launch the book comes out. What are we doing next? And what do we need set up in order to, keep the book in front of people and getting people into our funnel and through our funnel?
Yeah, that is the really hard part. And every single author I work with gets to the point where they're selling the book and they're like, but everybody said they buy it and they didn't. So, that is. So out speaking, that will do this a lot. Having webinars, having something monthly that people can consume, and doing all those things without sell. One of the things we talked about a lot in Pitch Slapped was serve, because that's really where you're going to start building those personal relationships and getting people to trust you. So, like within our company, we have a once a month training session. People show up, we don't even make them sign up, but somehow we end up with appointments after people go to a couple of them. Like, we want to talk to you more and find out what's there. So doing that on LinkedIn Live. Do it, the podcast. I have a podcast that comes out weekly. You have one as well. Giving people resources and information and exposing them to other people. So really being about serving them in a way that makes them want to connect with you.
I love that so much. It's really was such a game changer. And this has only been recent for me, probably the last 2 years now, really probably a year, is when I shifted from truly like a take, like, okay, what can I get out of this, to, okay, how can I add value to this relationship? Mm-hmm. And man, the value that comes back to you is tenfold.
Oh yeah.
It's so crazy. But as soon as you focus on how can I help this person without needing anything in return, it's like you actually get more in return. That's the irony of it. Yeah. But it's not until you can really kind of change that mindset, like you said, and add that value. And that's why I love podcasts. I've had, people who have just written books, and they'll go on, that's what makes it great is you don't necessarily have to do TV and radio now. You can go on a podcast tour, and do 100 podcasts and talk about your book on all different kinds of podcast platforms and get your name out there. And it's typically free, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then it sounds like you encourage them to do their own podcast as well.
A content, whatever that looks like. If it's a blog, if it's a I don't really like newsletters except over on LinkedIn where you're producing once a week, but having an email newsletter, that is so old. People rarely click, but content of some sort is really essential. And being comfortable enough with that content and committed that you do that on a regular basis. So is it a weekly? I wouldn't even recommend one monthly. I know people do a monthly, but you have to have those constant touch points. But that content gives you the ability to send it out to your list. So our podcast goes out to our list. We put the podcast over as a newsletter on LinkedIn. We have posts where we put it out. So, once you get that piece, there's so many ways to repurpose it and attract.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's just a constant
Do you, I assume you employ, or maybe you're the one who does it, but building an entire like content calendar and strategy, like a plug and play, like, hey, on this day, this is the content you do. On this day, this is the content you do, or?
So no, we don't do it like that. We have a course called I Love Content. And we get a lot of our clients from a very large coaching program. From a very large coaching program, but the demographic is between about 55 and 80. So we truly, with I Love Content, we go back to the beginning. Like, okay, you have a brand. What are your hashtags? What are your keywords? This is how you use them in your content. And this is how you build a calendar. And it's a 1-month immersion, but we actually have like the group setting, and then you get to work with someone on our team during that week. So you get to work with 4 of us throughout the genesis of it, but it's very hands-on because all of that scares people.
Yeah.
Like they don't know where to begin, but also they're afraid to open it up. So it's like, okay, we've immersed you now. Can we please push you off the cliff?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what you have to do, is you just got to jump in. You know, you can read and analyze, you know, till you're blue in the face, but until you jump in, which it sounds like you said, you know, you work with action takers, which I love. So is this content thing something you can do just the I Love Content, or is it all packaged together?
So I Love Content is a separate course, and we offer it every other month. And we only take 6 people at a time.
Oh, wow.
because it's very intensive, because we spend an hour with them during the week as well. So given our schedules, we don't want to get too immersed in a big course, but most of the time people will be invested enough in it that they'll say, you know what, I really love that. And let's do some one-on-one coaching. So some of it's included in our publishing packages, but with that 55 to 80 demographic, we get people who really, really need help. So
yeah, I can imagine.
So I'll give you an example. Someone who took the course in May, he's actually to the point where he's setting up the course he wants to have after the book. And so he's doing a month of one-on-one coaching. We're setting up all the tech with him. We're actually doing a session a week and setting up the tech and setting up the pay portal, because he doesn't have a pay portal yet. So it really gets that basic sometimes.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense with that demographic, right? It's, and not even necessarily that they don't or can't understand it. They just, you know, when you grew up with it more or less, it obviously, it feels so easy, you know, to go on and understand how content works and hashtags and social media. But then you realize there, you know, are a lot of people who have no idea, you know, maybe Facebook, but you know, I think Facebook's dying. It's definitely on its way out for sure. At least I hope so.
Yeah. I haven't been on Facebook since 2020, I think, maybe even 2019.
I have the podcast, like all my content posts to a podcast page on Facebook, but that's about the extent of it. Mm-hmm. There's really not. There's a few groups I think still I'm a part of that I check in on every once in a while, but it's on its way out for sure.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I had a huge following on Twitter from being an author. I got off in 2016. It was absolutely toxic. And the same thing happened in, I think it was 2020, that I couldn't do it anymore. Like it was just depressing. And the weird part was when I got off of Facebook, I went through withdrawals.
Wow.
Like for about a week, I was like, I really wanted to do something. And then I was like, you know, I'm really happy without this. And then it just all kind of evaporated. I had no desire.
So where are you typically running? Or do you run ads for the publishing company?
I do not run ads at all. Everything we do is super organic. We ran Facebook ads back in the day, and we got a lot of garbage. Yeah, and one of our things is get the garbage off your list. Don't participate in the joint ventures because you're going to get a lot of garbage on your list. So everything we do is very personalized.
Fascinating. And then are you serving younger demographic as well? What does that look like for the younger generation? Maybe understands the content side of things a little bit more, but maybe needs help with like mindset, and that is that something you work with as well, or?
No, our mindset is just do it.
I love that so much. That tracks.
Yeah.
Just take action.
That's right.
That's awesome. And what kind of businesses are you guys typically serving here? What like kind of books? Is it all different aspects or?
Yeah, we have a lot of spiritual books. My kids actually joke a lot of times about what's wrong with you? Why do you have all these spiritual people? Like, foot zoning and yoga and, there's all sorts of stuff that comes to us. So a lot of spiritual books, a lot of business books. We just had the what do you call it? Menopause Millionaire. We have a feminism book coming out. We have a Love Money journal coming out from a financial guru. So a little bit all over the place with the experts.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And what was it that has made a lot of these people finally decide to do this and write these books?
That's interesting. They just feel like they've come to the point where they want to share with people. So like Spirit Speaks she wanted to share her journey through life. And she actually came from a background where there was child pornography and prostitution and, drug use and a lot of those and how she was able to overcome that and get really spiritual. But she also does painting and artwork. And so it was time to share her artwork with the world. So, everybody does it for a different reason, I think. It's your own journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, mine, I had to do it to kill an ex-husband. So
yes, of course. And I'm sure that resonates. With a lot of
women love that.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, men are a little bit like sociopath. You're a sociopath.
Like, well, yeah, but aren't we all a little bit?
Right, exactly. Aren't we all a little bit?
I mean, especially if you're jumping into this world, you've got to be a little bit crazy and you have to be very risk averse, and well, I guess see risk differently. I see risk as an opportunity, almost like symbiotic, whereas a lot of people, definitely do not agree with that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And you have to understand those personalities when you're selling as well, because, you have to approach, I love bank because it really teaches you how to approach those people. And there are parts of that I don't even want some of those people because I'm never going to mesh with them.
Definitely. Yeah. That's one thing that I've been trying to come to terms with is that in the beginning, you want everybody to be an investor and, because I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. Look what I'm doing, guys. And look how great it is. And look at all these benefits. But then you get to the point where you realize that can't happen. And, just through being, you got to be authentic to your true self. And that's just not going to resonate with everyone. And that's okay because you'd rather have, 100 investors who know, like, and trust you.
Yes.
And you can be yourself than 10,000 who, you have no relationship with.
Yeah. And they don't give a damn. They don't open your emails. They don't. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I love it. So one thing I want to bring up is your black belt in Taekwondo. Were you always involved in karate?
No, my children, this is actually funny. My children took Taekwondo. My son, we enrolled him in T-ball when he was about 4, and me and his dad were both former athletes. And it was kind of funny because he went and sat down in center field and we were like, who is this child? So we kind of gave up on it. And then he came home from school one day and he said, oh, I took this Taekwondo class and I loved it. And he is a 2nd degree black belt. And so then my daughter went into it. She's a 1st degree. She had her 1st degree right before she turned 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
But my ex-husband always pushed them. And he's like, it's not that hard. So I took a class. I loved it. I was in it. And then when he said it wasn't that hard, we dared him. And he literally didn't get out of bed the next morning.
From one class?
From one class. And it was like the baby class. So It was just something I found really challenging and empowering, and I loved it. And I went all the way up to a black belt. I was actually training for my second degree when I did an elbow strike on wood, and I felt the whole thing twang really bad, and I couldn't move my hand for a few days. And I was like, I'm an adult and I have to make a living. Maybe I better cool it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, because it goes all the way up to 9 degrees, right?
I thought it was 7 or 9. I don't remember which.
Okay. Yeah. I took Taekwondo back in the day, but one thing I loved about it was like the self-discipline. It's a very self-discipline focused. Yeah. I mean, most karate and martial arts are very disciplined. That's why people like jujitsu, I think, as well. But that's awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah. And my kids, it did great things for my kids, their attention span, their discipline, their, everything. It was good for my kids.
And have they followed suit? Are they entrepreneurs as well?
I wish. But you know what? They're young. One's 23 and one's 27. So I kind of feel like you can't just jump into it. You need a little bit of experience from other fields, and they're getting that. But my son, actually, I encouraged him at one point to become one. And he said, no way, you made it look so hard when I was growing up. And I was like, oh God, are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know. I guess I wasn't very graceful at it.
Well, you're just, you don't sugarcoat anything, right? So when something's hard, you're like, yeah, this is hard right now. But I did a solo episode on this. I call it choose your hard, right? A 9 to 5 is hard too. Going up the corporate ladder is hard.
Yeah.
So you just got to choose which hard you want. It just looks different.
Yeah, it does. And, you need all those experiences and getting through those obstacles and understanding what are causing the obstacles and the people you're running into. So you do really need that experience to bring into this, because there are ups and there are downs, and it can go way up and it can go way, way down. And I don't know how many times I literally sat at my desk and I'm like, I quit. I'm done. And I go off and do something, and the next day I wake up and I'm right back at my desk. So
it is fascinating. I've definitely had a few late nights where I'm like right on the verge of tears. I'm like, what in the heck am I even doing right now? Mm-hmm. One thing that I struggle with still, and I think everyone does a little bit to some degree, is imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
That can be very challenging when you're sitting across from someone who has a $2 billion portfolio, and you're just like, but then you talk to them and you realize that they started right where you were. Mm-hmm. Everybody started somewhere. And I think, especially with social media, it's kind of tainted our view on entrepreneurship. And we think that you got to come out of the gate, and in your second year in business, you need to be doing 100 million in revenue. And that's not real life.
Yeah. It took me probably 3 years to break 6 figures with this business. And luckily I was still in real estate. So, I had, we discussed before.
For the B-listers?
Yeah. So I had a substantial income from that to hold me over, but it took me longer to build to 6 figures than I thought.
Yeah, it's challenging. And, I think you mentioned kind of earlier where, like a lot of people will encourage someone to write a book, which I'm sure you see, right? A lot of people are like, oh yeah, my networks encouraged me to write this book. And then it comes out and, they don't buy that. Those people don't buy the book. It's the same with me too, right? All these people are like, oh yeah, I'm super interested in real estate, And then all of a sudden I get a deal and they're nowhere to be found, to talk to you about investing. And you realize like, okay, this is going to be way harder than just calling, a few of my closest family and friends and snap of fingers and I raise $500,000 or $1 million.
Yeah. I tell you, my first book, my best friend never bought it. And I was like, what kind of friend are you? And she's like, I'm the kind of friend who will have to tell you your book's crap if it's crap.
So like, she's just not even going to put herself in that situation. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. She's like, yeah, but what if I don't like it?
Good.
Still to this day?
No.
Has she
Never
bought
bought
any of your others though? Now that you,
No,
oh
never,
man,
never bought it.
still your best friend though?
No.
Okay.
No, I
That-
moved on. I still keep in touch, but I moved out of California, so we don't
Oh,
see
right.
each other much anymore.
That's funny. Yeah. So to come full circle from the beginning, she was neighbors with my aunt and uncle, and now her and I are basically neighbors and didn't even know it. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's lots of fun.
And you said you love Utah, so you're here to stay.
I love Utah. I don't know. I was a born and raised California girl, so I'm not sure Winter and I are friends or if we ever will be, but I love the rest of the year here.
That's fair. Yeah. So no snow sports, needless to say.
No, it's just cold.
It is. It is cold. That's a very solid observation.
Yeah.
And it's very variable too. All the way up. I mean, this year was a very solid, like, this is what Utah weather is normally like. You know, May, it could be 70 or it could be 30.
Yeah.
And it's not until like literally right now, we're recording this June 28th, where you can count on, 90 degrees every day.
Yeah. So the day I moved here, August 6, 2016, and we heard all this pounding outside, and we opened the blinds in the new house, and there were like ice, snowball, hail, like this, like the size of baseballs, and it was 95 degrees out. And we all stood there like, I didn't even know that was possible. Like, what the hell? Where did we move?
Honestly, that's so funny. Yeah, California is not a very like weather-wise, it's not a good representation of what most of the rest of the country endures.
Yeah, it's
So
not.
like California, Nevada, Arizona are very like, you can just count on what the weather is going to be like. And then those three states move somewhere else and they're like, wait, it's not sunny every single day? I don't understand.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. It's a great state. I'm a huge fan. But I do love winter, so that definitely helps a lot. I love to play in the snow. So what, do you just hibernate or?
I work so much during the winter, and then I golf all summer, spring, summer, and fall.
Okay. That works out well.
Yeah. And then me and the bears go back into hibernation.
Exactly. I didn't realize bears literally sleep all winter, like 6 months. They'll just hibernate. I'm like, that's
Well,
awesome.
yeah.
I want that skill.
Yeah, I don't sleep all winter, but cool.
We'll have to encourage you to write your next book too this coming winter. I'm just going to be like, hey, it's going to be really cold today. Awesome day to write.
I know. I've had the book in my head for like a year, and I just haven't. I've done a lot of research on it, but I ran into a little obstacle with it because someone made a comment about the coupling in it that I hadn't really thought of. So I've sort of been trying to figure out, do I go forward with it? It'd be a little bit controversial, or do I not? So I can't really tell you what it is without giving it away.
Yeah, that's fine. But I love a little controversy. So I'm a big fan of stirring the pot.
There you go.
Sweet. Well, as we wrap up here, I've got 5 questions I ask all my guests. So we'll jump to the final 5 here.
Okay.
First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Let it go.
I love that. So simple, yet so useful. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Being able to help people do something extraordinary that they never thought they could do. I think that's probably my biggest joy in all this.
Yeah, that's got to be very satisfying to see someone start at the beginning and come all the way through, and it all works, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm doing right. That's great. So the question is favorite non-real estate or investment related book, but give us maybe 1 or 2 of your favorite like self-help books.
Ooh, self-help books. Wow, I'm gonna have to think about that.
Or just two of your favorite books. How
The
about
New
that?
F Word. I loved The New F Word by Merrill Chandler. He's one of our authors, and I learned so much from that book that I didn't anticipate I would learn. And I actually took his course. And I can't think of another one off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
I'll have to put that on the list. What's kind of the premise behind that one?
That he is a credit expert and how to build business credit. And I actually followed what he did.
Oh, wow. I actually
and
do need
got
that book.
extraordinary interest rate on my car. I now have business credit. So yeah, it was super helpful.
Awesome. Love that. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, superpower. To make everyone successful.
Wow. That would be quite the power. I think everybody could handle it though.
That's a good point. Could they or could they not?
I don't know. I don't know if some people are cut out for it.
Yeah, just what we need, more drug addicts in the world. No.
Listen, the world needs ditch diggers too. Just kidding.
Yes, they do.
Awesome. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
You can find me over on LinkedIn, Juliet Clark, or Juliet@superbrandpublishing.com.
Cool. We'll link that in the show notes. Juliet, thank you. This has been absolutely amazing. So grateful for your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, you know it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.